Hello? Hello, everyone. So, my name's Sugi Yamagawa, and today we're going to be bottling the batch of beer that's in here. But, well, actually, first let me say I hope all of you are having a wonderful evening. And in order to make sure I also have a wonderful evening, I'm gonna Can I show it? There it is. It's kind of there. We're actually going to get started by cracking open the cold one. So this beer, well, yeah, what better way to start off a stream about beer than by talking about one? So this is one of my past brews. It is, let's see, this is the Golden Blonde, slightly dry hopped. It's in the rainbow glass. Granted, unfortunately, there's a little too much art on it to actually like see the beer. But let me just, I want to set that where you guys can see it. So let me grab my recipe book and let's see here. Yeah. So this is English Golden Ale. It has 4.5 pounds of Pilsner, 3.5 two-row, 1 pound Victory, 1 pound Vienna. So this is basically a standard blonde ale that I decided to use. So I'm using Safrole SO4, which is an English style yeast. Usually the main Safrole you usually see in like homebrew shops and different places, that is SO5, and SO5 is an American ale yeast. SO4 is an English ale yeast. So this is a blonde. I basically just found a recipe online and was like, okay, I really like the bones of this recipe. I really like the Tegenager hops, Cascade Simcoe, all good stuff. But I see in this recipe that it's not having me use all the Cascade and Simcoe hops. And I'm like, I would like to use all the hops I'm given. So I decided the unused hops will be used as a dry hop addition to this beer. And by using them as a dry hop addition, I can get a lot more of like the floral, a lot more of the like subtle notes of the hops. And that will allow me to impart hop flavor without so much as actually like really like upping the bitterness in any significant manner. So, and then with like using like an ale yeast, you kind of get a bit more of English ale yeast is, you can kind of get more like ester notes with. So like give it a smell. It definitely has like a nice like subtle hop character to it. So it's got a pretty decent body to it. It's not too watery, it's not too heavy. It's pretty nice, easy drinking beer. And then and as it like rolls off the back of your tongue, it has actually kind of like a nice like bit of bitterness. But going back to like the esters from the English yeast, esters are a lot of the more like fruity notes. Fruit, clove, banana. Some of those more, I guess you could say, ethereal notes in the beer. And I am going to pour a little bit more out of this bottle. So whenever you homebrew beer and you have like a bottle, so you tend to get a bit of sedimentation. So pour this out to here. This right now, it has a bit of a head on it. But not sure how. So I use this like pastry dish. Well, it's not pastry dish. Basically uses it as like a salsa bowl. But eventually, like, the foam bubbles are gonna like die down, and you'll actually be able to see like chunks of yeast and like other like sediment, because a lot of stuff will like settle out of the beer during bottling. So you always want to leave like a little bit. So whenever you're like pouring a homebrew beer, you always want to like make sure you leave just a little bit of beer left. You don't want to like pour too aggressively, because sometimes you'll get like chunks of beer and stuff, which hopefully that foam will just die and be able to see some stuff. And like, oh yeah, like there's like chunks. Like looking from the bottom up, there's chunks in there, but it's hard to tell from the top down. Oh. So this is my English golden ale. This is a pretty, how do I put this? It's one of those recipes I found online where it's like, I really like the bones. I really want to like just tweak it in like this area and this other area. And it's gotten me the beer that you see now. And it is basically a staple. Like, this gets brewed every year. So just a bit of an figured for this, considering last brewing stream and all the various let me see, let me do this right. Misfortunes of that stream of running out of propane out of not just one but 2 tanks was like, well, life happens. Unfortunately, life chose to happen today. So, well, 2 weeks ago. It's 2 weeks later, but we've got a full 5 gallons of beer here. I'm actually gonna, let's see. And it's still, you can see through it better, but you can't quite see through everything. So I'm gonna take that, set it to the side. Have another delicious sip of beer. And we're gonna, first things first, with showcasing off the beer that was made, I'm gonna position this, and take out a little airlock. And then the funnest part, cracking open the fermenter, because this part is always a lot of fun. Because these lids are meant to stay on. They're definitely meant to stay on. And one of the reasons why it's good to like take the little like airlock piece out is because sometimes when you're trying to take this off, you'll get a little bit of your like sanitization water will like end up in the beer, which a little bit is fine, but we want to avoid a lot. Ooh. This is fun. Come on, keep working it. Okay, a little bit more, and don't want to smack the camera. So where's the Heffy? Well, technically speaking, there is Heffy. There's Heffy beer here. It's just not around. I don't even think I've ever brewed a Heffy. Which is definitely like one of those things where it's like, man, I should really do that one of these days. Like, I should make one of those just to make one. But I've actually made a Heffy beer. I think I've made like a couple of wheat beers. Which, I mean, like a wheat beer is like one of those things that can be like kind of similar to a Heffy, but not necessarily so. But big sad. As if you would even drink it. But here, ladies and gents, is our beer. So this is like the top part of it. And as you can see all some like green bits. The green bits you see, that's actually the dry hops that were added to the beer. That are just floating on the surface. And then, actually, let's grab a pointy stick thing. Got a pointy stick thing. Okay, so you can kind of see like there's a bit of this like ring of residue around the container. So that is the remains of... So this was fermented with an ale yeast, which ferments on the top of the beer. So it's primarily active on the top. We can actually see some remnants of that. Because I'm pretty sure every one of these like little like bubbles you're seeing, like right here and there and everywhere, those are all full of carbon dioxide from yeast. So that's all like just various like off gases from yeast. So this is basically the finished beer, finished product. And if you're concerned about the floaty bits, don't worry about it. They will continue to remain on the top of the liquid. When we pull out, when we... What's the word again? What's the terminology? Brain. Oh yeah, when we rack the beer off. So, racking beer. Granted, you usually hear it more often with wine, but it's also applies to beer as well. So, racking beverage refers to the process of when you take the beverage out of the container, you do so in such a way so there's actually going to be like actually similar to the layers of sediment in our glass. Don't know if you can kind of see some of the sediment we got going on here. There's like a little bit, not a whole lot, which is... But there is definitely a layer of sediment here. And a lot of that sediment is actually dead yeast. So, fun fact for all you people out there. Alcohol is basically yeast poop. So as the yeast goes about consuming all the sugars, turning those sugars into alcohol, it poops. And because the fermenter is a closed system, the poop stays there. And eventually the poop becomes too much, and also the yeast multiply too much, and eventually they start starving out, and some of them die, and then they'll sink to the bottom. So yeah, yeast actually kill themselves with their own excrement, and this is like one of the funnest facts about alcohol to me, is that alcohol is basically fungus poo that people inebriate themselves with. Because yeast is a single cell fungus. So that's your real like fun fact for the day, and just something that makes me giggle incessantly is just thinking that people enjoy this thing and it's basically just the waste products of some fungus. Single cell fungus at that. So, here's our beer. Behind the beer, I don't know. It's overshadowed. It's really overshadowed. Give me a minute here to move some stuff on the workbench. So, behind it is a bucket. This is the bottling bucket. You can see it looks a little foamy right now. Well, it's a little foamy right now because of this wonderful stuff. Star San. So this is a contact sanitizer, which what that means is basically anywhere where this liquid touches, there are no more living organisms, which is what we want. So I always go ahead, premix a batch of sanitizer in my bottling bucket, and then I'm going to be running this through. So here's my pointing stick. So this pointing stick is actually a bottle filler. It has a port on the top, and then it has, don't want it to get into the beer, but it has this little like dimple. It's got a spring on it. Oh no, don't get into the beer. Here, actually, let's just check that over there. Yeah. But yeah, if you spring down, it actually opens up and it lets water flow. Well, in this case, the water is going to be the stuff in here. But that's called a bottling one. And then in addition to that, we've got some vinyl tubing. So vinyl tubing, bottling one. These are going to be our main tools for transferring beer, not only from our fermenter, but also, well, from fermenter to bottling bucket, but also from bottling bucket to all the glass bottles we have here today. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this vinyl tubing into the sanitizing solution. And that is going to clean it, sanitize it, and basically make it just so that there's no bad stuff. But yeah, you can kind of see like the color. It definitely looks like a pretty standard pale ale. Let's see here. I don't know, I keep trying to like stir this up a little bit, but every time I try to stir it, it just generates more bubbles. But actually, that was the ticket. Just had to, so you can kind of see a floaty in there, kinda. And that floaty I see in there is actually, it looks like a remain of a hop. A bit of a piece of a hop. There's a couple in there, but this is all just like the residual dredges that end up in the bottom of your bottles. Like, and actually, like, since the point that's in there, all these little like flakes you're seeing here, especially in this like clear area of the beer, those are also like little bits of like hops from dry hopping, and also a little bit from the brewing. Granted, we tried to do what we can to keep that stuff from contaminating our beer, but some of that stuff just gets through the process. So I've been having my main, let's call them beer moving tools. I've been having those soak in the sanitizer for a little bit. So the next step is I'm going to take some containers, and I'm gonna pour the sanitizer into those. So we're just gonna wait for that to happen. And mostly the point of putting the sanitizer in those containers is so that way I can have like the because I mix the sanitizer in the bottling bucket, because all the fluid in here is gonna go into this bucket. But I can't mix the sanitizer in the beer, because that's not gonna make good beer. It's not gonna make good beer at all. So I have to take the sanitizer out of the bottling bucket. Gotta put it into containers where I can just hold it temporarily for a little bit, and then I can take the beer out of here, put it into here, and then we can start bottling. Granted, this is actually going to turn out to be some relatively decent camera angles, considering how terrible they were in the last stream. This is actually going to work out fairly nice. I'm fairly excited. Now I just have to wait for acid-laden water to drip out. And if you think I'm joking about acid-laden water, let's see here. Can I show these? Yeah. Ooh, 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 ooh. And showing things to chat is difficult. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. If I can get the camera to focus. It's wretchedly hard to see, but that second ingredient is phosphoric acid, and that's 50% of the... That's 50% of the contents of this thing. That's why... That's actually why you see it come in this, actually, okay, yeah. The sanitizer, where you have, like, this tube on the side. Fun fact, you have to turn off autofocus. Okay. I'll make a note of that. But yeah, like these plastic containers where you have this tube on the side. Generally speaking, if you see a plastic container with this tube on the side and like a mixing bin here and childproof and those childproof locks on it, that means you have a plastic container that holds very dangerous things. Okay. I'm gonna scooch that over. Actually, okay. So with the second container that we have there, that should be able to enough to get all. Sorry, do my thing. Oh well, I can definitely cheers to that. And good luck with your work, buddy. But yeah, so once we get this other container full, we'll be taking the beer out of the fermenter, putting it in the bottling bucket. And you can't see it right now, but basically below where this B you see here, there's a spigot. And that spigot is going to be the thing that plugs into the vinyl tubing and the bottling wand, and that's going to be how we're going to get the beer from here into the glass bottles. But for now, it's a little bit of a waiting game. Brewing is always a little bit of a waiting game, and granted, speaking of waiting games, so the 2024 blackberry harvest at the Yamagawa homestead has been nuts. Absolutely bonker nuts. I am incredibly happy with how it has turned out so far this year, and as a result of that, I think I will actually try my hand at making blackberry wine, because if I tried to eat... So right now, I'm probably sitting at... Ooh, excuse me, I've been really burpy. Dinner must have done that to me. I'm probably sitting at like between 14 to 15 pounds of blackberries, which that alone is enough to make like a pretty solid 3 gallons of blackberry wine. And I was actually meaning to go to my local homebrew shop where I get like all the ingredients for like all this stuff and like all the materials, and they were actually closed on Saturday because there was actually a beer festival event in my area, and they were attending that because I was hoping to go there and like ask questions, and also like because one of the big things I need to find out is the gallon size of the carboys they offer, basically fermenters, because this plastic bucket fermenter that you see here, this is it's technically designed for 5-gallon batches, but you can put up to 6. Technically it holds 7 gallons of liquid, but you don't want to be, there's under no circumstances you want to put like 7 gallons of fermentables in here. You're gonna just have a sploogey overfilled mess if that happens. Okay. So, we're most of the way cleared up on that. I'm gonna go ahead and take... Actually, I'm gonna grab that. Okay. I'm gonna take these materials. I'm gonna store them over there. This. Here. Okay. Yay! So, we now have an empty bottling bucket. With an empty bottling bucket? Actually, wait. Wait. I have been negligent to you all, for there is one more star to the show. Over. So this wonderful stuff. So, since this beer is going into bottles, there is currently no carbonation in here. It's exposed to the atmosphere, all that good stuff. So all the carbonation is coming out. So what you do is when you bottle beer is you want to give the beer, the yeast in the beer, a little bit of sugar mixed with water. Now I'm not going to make a reference to that one movie. So this is corn sugar mixed with a 1.5 cups of water, boiled for 15 minutes to sanitize it. This is going to go into the bottom of the bottling bucket. And what this is going to do is this is going to help prime the beer. This is going to help give the yeast a little bit of sugar, and it's going to help carbonize the bottles after we crimp them. Because until we crimp them, all the CO2 yeast makes. Okay. Trying to wrangle this stuff. So we got this sanitized. So this is going to get dipped into the beer a little bit. And then boom. And this is racking beer. So what you're going to see is you're going to slowly see this fill up the bottling bucket. And then also kind of a cool thing to like see is as you're like drawing the beer out of your fermenter, the floaty stuff is going to move towards the edge, all the hops and then it's going to stick to the side. It's kind of a neat thing that happens when you do this stuff. Ah, the joys of a beer siphon in action. But yeah, we can see a bunch of floaty bits being stuck side over here. Now let's slowly have more beer filling the bottling bucket. But as you can see, with the stuff that's floating on the top and with the stuff that sells out at the bottom, by basically pulling from the middle of your fluid column of beverage, you're able to get a lot of the floaty bits out of your beer, and that's going to help you get a cleaner beer. Actually, that's probably the reason. That's probably actually the reason why I've been so burpy, is because I have definitely been enjoying a few drinky drinks prior to and technically currently now. So once we get all the beer pulled out of here, I'll bring the bottling bucket up just to kind of like show it for a quick bit, and then it's going to get shoved off to the side, like somewhere in somewhere in that general direction, off to the side, because eventually, and I will actually move the camera up into the table, and we'll actually start filling bottles of beer. Pretty. I mean, we've gotten quite a bit of this beer out. It smells amazing. Like, kind of a weird thing there's a weird thing I can do, but I'm gonna wait until so you can start to see the end of the siphon. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slowly tilt it. Mostly because I just don't want to get any stuffs. Okay, so you guys can't see it now, but we're definitely nearing the end of this siphon off. But you can definitely, well, you can start to see it now, but you can start to see a lot of flowy stuff. But I want to get as much beer out as I can, and boom! Bada binga! There we go! Yay! So that is it. Get that. And off to the side. So currently what you see here, you see beer mixed with a lot of hop stuff. And if I can kind of, well, there's actually quite a bit of sludge at the bottom of this, and all that sludge is actually yeast. They do that. Paper towels! I don't want to stick my finger in that, but there is a thing I do want to stick my finger in, and that's this stuff. So, this is yeast. This is an absolutely fantastic source of B vitamins. It's bitter though. Be forewarned. Brewer's yeast is bitter. But, fun fact. Back in, I don't want to quite say ye olden times, but what was it? The late 18th century. There was a disease called pellagra that was really rampant in the American South, and it turns out, because some people thought pellagra was like a germ disease. But it turns out plague was a vitamin deficiency disease. And the ultimate answer that, like, the people who were, like, researching this and trying to, like, figure it out, because, like, a whole bunch of people were dying, and that's just not good. The answer was brewer's yeast. So, if you have a vitamin B deficiency, you can fix that with brewer's yeast, which is basically what the solid line all around the rim of this container is. It's literally just chunks of yeast, rich and full of B vitamins. And I should probably wash that down with some water. Woo. But yeah, just a fun historical fact about beer, yeast, and brewing. So I'm going to take this, and it is going to go off to the side. For this is the star of our show. Oh. So this is our beer. Dang, we actually got under 5 gallon. I'm hoping for a bit more than that. Oh well. So, next step in this fun process is I'm just trying to, like, so this is, like, honestly, like, the most awkward part, because my beer bottles are here. This is eventually gonna go off to the side, like, this way. And yeah, honestly, I see no better solution than going for it. So, I'm gonna go for it. You know what? Screw it. Normally, I will... So, in order to get a good draw of liquid from here to... Because here's where my beer bottles stand now. But my spigot for the beer is basically right around here. I take this and put this up on top of a 5-gallon bucket that's, like, basically over my shoulder. Well, not necessarily over my shoulder from your view, but over my shoulder from where I'm standing right now. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and go for it. And move. We're gonna say goodbye to the beer for a little. Woo, that stuff's heavy. And we're gonna focus a little bit more here on this area. So a big thing I wanna do is I wanna make room for all these bottles, because we're gonna be filling at least 20, usually at least 24 of these bomber style bottles, and then I always do like a dozen of the 12-ounce bottles. So, one thing I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to take this saucepan. I'm going to fill it with sanitizer. So, I'm going to dip my bottle caps in the sanitizer solution, and this is going to basically help make sure my bottle caps are clean and good. And so this is all I got. So since this is a pale ale beer, I'm gonna be using green bottle caps, and if I run out, I'm just gonna have to use something different and label it. So bottle caps are sanitized. Well, sanitizing. Let's line up. I'm gonna go ahead and line up some bottles. Just because initially This can be a bit of an operation because you gotta, like, you're paying attention to the bottle, you're putting caps on, and there's just a lot going on in that you have to, like, look at and think about. So, give me a moment to hook up. Ah! Okay. Then... because there's... and... that... so this hose is longer than it needs to be, but... and... ooh. It's slowly overcoming the nefarious forces that... oh. Oh. Okay, cool. So we got all the air purged out of the line, which is good. That's really good. Now, it should be just a matter of wait. You thought you could overflow on me. I'm not going to allow that to happen. Yay, first bottle's filled. Okay. Oh. What I like to do usually is because in the beginning, this goes by pretty quickly, at least bottle filling. Granted, normally I actually work with a bit of a height difference between where my beer's at and where I'm bottling. So I've got a bit less of a height difference. And due to that, I have I'm gonna have a slower rate of flow. But usually what I try to do is I try to go ahead and get a higher number of these bomber bottles filled. Whoa! Bit of a spill. We want to avoid that. That's what happens when you talk too much. That's what happens when you yap too much. You're trying to bottle beer. Also why I try to get as many bottles pre-lined up as possible. Here I did it again. Versus. Wasting perfectly here. How dare I? Want to move these over to here. Cool, because I'm gonna need that room. So I'm gonna watch these bottles quite a bit more fair. Yeah. A bit closely. So let's see, that's 5 bombers there. And so we just gotta keep on keeping on. It's almost done. And boop. Bloop. But yeah, here we are, just slowly filling bottles. But this is also kind of like the nicer thing with the bomber style bottles is their larger size gives you you have a bit more leeway. with them in terms of like the amount of beer you put in them. And also, if you think of like overfilling bottles of beer as like a statistical anomaly, the fewer big bottles, well, the fewer bottles of beer that... Why do I feel like I'm making like a tongue twister or something right now? The fewer bottles that you have to put beer into, the less likely you're going to have less overflow. If you assume your overflow is consistent regardless of the size of your bottle. Which is like another reason why I prefer the bomber style bottles. And also having the bomber style bottles also, it actually does a lot to make this process a lot quicker. Because this process could take a while, because I think if you make 5 gallons of beer, if you're doing just 12-ounce bottles, I think you need like close 50. You'll need like close to 50 of the 12-ouncers to bottle the whole batch, which is quite a lot, I think. So, but with the bombers, let's see. I usually do about bottles off. Mid-range. But with the bomber bottles, I usually do about... I think it's like 20 to 24 of those to a dozen of the 22 ounce. Which, let's see, right now I got 10 bombers filled right now. So I've got 10 of those. I'm probably going to keep on filling bombers until I get... like, how much do I want? Probably like 15. Because once I get 15, then I'll switch to the 12-ouncers. Because what you really want to do is you want to... Because when you're first like bottling beer and you have like a lot of beer in your bottling bucket, the flow rate is going to be highest, well, at its highest, with the most amount of beer in it. So you really want to like draw it down before you go to your smaller bottles, if you're doing your smaller bottles, because those are much more likely to overflow. Granted, I'm kind of curious. What's going on behind me? Oh, okay. So yeah, I looked behind me, and so I think we had a little bit more than 4.5 gallons, maybe 4 3/4 gallons, and we're now under 2.5. So I think what we'll do is we'll do these 3 bombers. And then after we do these 3 bombers, we'll go ahead and start doing the 12-ouncers. Bloop. Go away. Wowzers. Like you're taking a minute. Good. Because if it's taking a minute with the bombers, then it means I don't have to be super Hawkeye on the 12-ouncers. I'm going to eventually start filling. And go there. So, you guys can't hear this. I'm pretty sure you can't. But one of the things that's happening right now is with all these bottles that are now sealed. Well, they're not sealed, but they just have the bottle caps on them. Ooh. You'll hear like little like pops out of them. Those pops is actually carbon dioxide being made by the yeast that's breaking like the ever so slight water seal between these caps and between the caps and the bottle. Fortunately, it's like I am going to run out of bottle caps. I've got 3. Well, with this one getting used, I have 2. So I'm gonna have to use a different color cap. So let's see, currently I'm using gold for gold's being used for the gold nail. I'm using silver for a Kolsch I have now, which eventually I will eventually bring out a bottle of that Kolsch for you all. I'll probably bring that out once I finish filling all these bottles in. Make sure I've got all my beer out. So, I'm going to fill this up. Whoop. And I'm going to set it to the side. Excuse me. I have to... Okay. Oh, there we go. Red? Oh, hell yeah. Okay. So, looks like... I have just a small handful of red caps left. So I think I will use these for the pale ale. Maybe a little unnecessarily Christmassy, but I don't care insofar as long as it helps me keep track of like what beer is where. That is currently the most important thing. Because I do know what the next beer after this one I'm going to brew is. And that is going to be the beginning of this year's Oktoberfest. So that's going to be... Because, let's see here, right now it's actually like the last day in June. So, Oktoberfest, well, usually a lot of the breweries around me, like they'll start like releasing their Oktoberfest in August. And I generally try to make sure I have them ready. Have mine ready around about that time, so. That's probably what I'm gonna look forward to in doing once July rolls around is because let's see, this beer here today, it's not gonna really be ready to drink until like mid to late July. It's really easy to overflow the 22 ounces. Well, not the 22, but the 12 ounces. Gotta be real careful with. Which I'm not, because I'm yapping too much. The joys of yapping too much. That's my job right now, to yap. Alright, so we got 2 more. We are down to the last 2 of... So we're down to our last 2 12 ouncers. Really starting to look thin on caps again. Might be okay. We might be okay. I don't know for sure if we'll be okay, but we'll find out. We'll find out. I don't know. I'm gonna check behind me. Ooh, we might be. I don't know. We might be okay. I might need some more caps though. So. Oh, yep. Boop. Okay. That's the end of the 12 ouncers. Bring in bombers. I don't think we'll be filling more than these 4. Judging by where we are at the bottling bucket, I don't think we're gonna fill more than that. But you never know, so I'm gonna keep moving and hope we don't get any overflows. And the tapered off. Oh, there. And so that one. Oh. This is definitely one of the more funner, well, kind of sort of funner parts. This is the part where the flow of beer from your bottling bucket becomes nearly egregiously slow. But we still got beer flowing. Ugh, okay. Well, I'm not going to worry about too much. Just going to keep running with this and... But yeah, it's moving really slow right now. Sure, if you can kind of see like the floaty bits in the line. Yeah, like that. And some of those. That just shows you the rate of flow we have. Earlier, it was a lot more vigorous than that. It's starting to look like it's starting to slow down and maybe even stall. How much? Wait. Trying to take a look. Here I have in this bottle right now. Okay. So that bottle is nearly full. I'm gonna take a thing. Do a thing. Oh. Wowzers. We are getting close. So this is the fun part where I do acrobatics to keep the beer moving. That's that one. And can we have at least enough beer to finish this It's one bottle off, but we'll find out. Look at the. That's gonna tell me like how quickly, how well this is progressing. Seems kind of stalled, but this is normal. This is very, very, very normal. Because one of the things that will happen is like some of the start the fog. That wand. Please try the flow as somewhat decent, right? Okay? Okay? Okay. We're gonna have to be a bit aggressive here. Okay. Nope. Okay. Whoa. Okay, okay, okay. Enough of that. Enough of that. Enough of overflowing bottles of beer. Okay, so we're gonna cap that. Give me a second here. I'm going to pour the remainder. Well, the remainder out of the hose. Okay. Bowser! That was tough. Okay, so. Ooh. Oh, okay, that's what's happening. I heard dripping water and it's like, why is there dripping water? And it's like, oh, all this beer's flowing off the backside of the table. That's what's going on. Okay, okay, okay. That's fun. That's fun. So, actually, let's do a thing right. So I'm gonna take the remainder. So this here is the remainder of the beer. From bottling. And as you can see, it contains a great deal of floaty bits. Which ideally means the floaty bits are not in any of these bottles. Ooh. Ooh, man, that's not... So, we have definitely ended up with... Bowser! Why did I do that? Sorry about that. Whew. But we ended up with a very Italian-esque colors of bottles. We ended up with green, red, and white. I'm sure it's going to be a joy for myself keeping track of all this. So, I like to. So after I finish filling my bottles with beer, I always like to wait a little bit before I start capping. And the purpose of that, well, give me about 3 minutes and I'm gonna go take a leak and grab a visual aid, okay? Okay, bye. Ah! That tripped on the leg of the table saw. So, I have attained my visual aid. So, there is, in a bottle, there's a airspace between the liquid and the top. One of the reasons why I wait before I actually secure the caps is so that way the yeast can produce carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is actually heavier than air because generally air is made up of nitrogen and oxygen and oxygen are 2-atom molecules. Carbon dioxide is a 3-atom molecule. And because of that, it's a bit heavier than the other bits of air. Because it's heavier than the other bits of air, it tends to sit on the bottom. So at this point in the brewing process, we really do not, under any circumstances, want our beer to come in contact with oxygen. But there is going to be what's called an airspace, which is this little area here. So by leaving my bottle sit for a little bit, I can help with that a little bit by letting the yeast generate carbon dioxide from that priming sugar I gave it earlier. And then it will take that, it will do its fermenting thing, it'll produce carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide will accumulate right at the surface of the beer, and you can kind of get like a little bit of like an air seal between the standard atmospheric air and the actual air in your bottle. And also, this is like a thing you can only do if you're homebrewing. In commercial brewing, like, you've got a line, it's running, you're trying to get like your beer into bottles as quick as you can. Like, you don't got time for this. But with homebrewing, we have time for this. We can take our time to make the finest of home craft beverages. And oh yeah, speaking of home craft beverages, this bottle I just cracked open. So So this one here is my Kolsch. Kolsch is a light. It's kind of like a lager, but ooh, I've actually got hops scratching the back of my throat. But it's kind of like a lager, but it actually uses a ale yeast in its fermentation. So it's a light estery beer. Ooh. Oh wow. So you can kind of really see that sediment. It's all set. Yeah, all that gunk is sediment gunk. And then you can kind of see like how murky and gunky this is. Which is why when you're working with homebrew at home, you always want to like take it, pour it off into a different glass, and just leave like that last like quarter inch, or I have no idea what it is in millimeters. Unfortunately, here, here, give me a minute. Don't want to break caps off bottles. Okay. There is a somewhat belief in the absolute mathematical bliss that is the metric system. Unfortunately, the laws that rule the lands where this homestead's located mean that the freedom units of measure are the primary units of measure used here. So you ideally want to leave like that last quarter inch of like beer, bottom of your bottle, in the bottle. Specifically for the yeast and crud and all that stuff. So Kolsch, a lot of people are probably familiar with Kolsch from Cologne, Germany. It's a very popular... I don't have coasters here, damn it. Granted... I'm just realizing, like, this glass, this Reimu waifu cup glass is actually the perfect glass for Kolsch. Because for a Kolsch, you want a tall, narrow glass with straight sides. Which this satisfies, which I did not plan this. This is the ideal glassware for this beer. Man, that's funny. But yeah. So Kolsch. So it talks a little bit how it's kind of like an ale yeast, but the beer's kind of handled a little bit like a lager. So with Kolsch, it's a very clean finishing beer. It comes off a lot of ways like a lager. However, though, so speaking earlier about the English, like that, the English blonde ale, the Kolsch will actually have a lot more estery, fruity aromas to it. And honestly, I would, if I had the choice between like a relatively solid lager, like Sapporo, or what's a good American domestic lager, like an actual good non-craft lager. Nothing is coming up off the top of my head. Because I wouldn't consider that of Budweiser. I wouldn't consider Coolers. No. I mean, Rolling Rock's perfectly okay. Heineken's a bit better than okay. I mean, Dos Equis is good, but Dos Equis is a Mexican lager. Man, I cannot think of like a. I mean, there's Yinling exists, but that's about as much as I'm gonna acknowledge that beer. um, darn, I can't really think up of like any good like well, not okay. So now I have to venture into like craft beer territory. So I'm trying to think of like Sam Adams Boston Lager, definitely a really solid lager. And I guess to name a second, I would go with Rheingeist Cheetah. That's another like really solid lager. But like, if you were to offer me like a really solid lager to versus just an okay Kolsch, I will take an okay Kolsch any day. Because with the Kolsch, you kind of get those more like estery, like fruity, flavorful notes. And that extra bit versus what you would get with just like a regular lager is really what pushes me like over the edge and like gives Kolsch double thumbs up. Where's my double thumbs up? Double thumbs up. Because that's kind of like what I like and expect out of beer. I like the lower ABV beers. I like drinkability, but I also like flavor. So Kolsch is always a big W for me. Earlier, the English blonde ales, those are really good. Those are, well, good in terms of what my palate enjoys. All this pale ale's good. I mean, I do enjoy my IPAs, but I definitely am a bit more biased in favor of the pale ales versus the IPAs. And then, like, oh my gosh, Oktoberfest season is so close to being upon us. It is the end. It is the end of June, and then in my area, the month of August is what like when a lot of the like craft breweries start like releasing Oktoberfest. So I have like a month of waiting before I can like start enjoying Oktoberfest, and I am super stoked for that. It is gonna be great. I am very excited. Okay, so been enjoying this Kolsch. Been giving it a little minute for all the yeast in these bottles to make a little bit carbon dioxide to kind of like push out the unwanted air. Well, the unwanted oxygen that is present in the air. So I think it's time to grab the bottle crimper and start crimping some bottles. So definitely am working with a bit out of the usual setup, so please pardon me. So these crimpers are pretty standard, like bottle crimpers. So you take them, you fold them down, and then it takes like this flare and pushes it down and holds it against the bottle and gives you a really nice seal. Very homebrew friendly. Well, home brewer friendly. Due to advancements in can liners, craft beer is more of a canned beverage, which honestly cans are better for beer. So the packaging science of beer. So cans are better for beer than bottles. The reason is because light. So some of the various chemicals that are formed when the hops are interacting with the wort during the boil, some of those chemicals can break down in the response of light. Which is why beer is always sold, well, Not always, but generally is sold in like these brown glass bottles that you see before you today. That's because they block out quite a bit of the light. However, though, an aluminum can, that blocks out 100% of the light. And actually gets you beer that is a lot more shelf stable, well, or a bit more life stable. Well, not life stable, but light stable. I need a beer. But for today, a lot of this beer's you know what's funny to think is like how much of this beer is not going to leave this basement in which it was brewed and bottled, because this is generally where I consume my beer. Generally I consume it in my shop, and then like opposite my shop, like there's a wall over here where I'm pointing my finger at. Other side of that wall is kind of like a recreation area. Kind of have like a pseudo workout room there. That's actually the area where most of my beer is consumed. So, a lot of this beer is not going to leave this basement in which it was brewed in. I'm not sorry, beer. I'm very not sorry. But yeah, once again, another benefit of the bomber style bottles is because the bottles are bigger, you have less bottles to crimp. Which really goes a bit of ways to help with this process, which granted, I'm actually going to do a quick count. So I prepared, so all these glass bottles, to prepare them to accept beer, I basically load them into my dishwasher, and like these are all like rinsed out clean beer bottles, right? I did all that, and then I basically ran them through the dishwasher with a sanitize cycle. And what the sanitize cycle does is it basically cooks everything at a really high temperature for a while. And that helps like sanitize everything. And by sanitize everything, I mean destroy the ever-living hell out of those germs. Because the only germs we like around here are yeast. And their yeast's ability to get us drunk. Well, that's all the green caps done. Cheers! Ah. On to the red caps. Wait, were there any thoughts I could tie into what I was having earlier? I don't think so. For now, we're just crimping bottles of beer. Granted, the fun part that I'm probably not going to show anyone is cleanup. Because I've got a 5-gallon fermenter to clean up, and I have the bottling bucket, and I have way too much stuff to clean up. And that's just going to remain the like not fun, not shown part of brewing, cleaning everything, because a lot of what it means to make like good beer or just good any fermented beverage is cleanliness, keeping all your equipment clean, not having gunk on it, because you need to have cleanliness in order to be able to sanitize everything. So say for example here, we'll look at this fermenter right quick. See all that gunk? If you let all that gunk get like stay there and get crusty and all that other like not good stuff, like there's no way you're going to be able to sanitize it. Just no way you're going to be able to sanitize it. Whereas if you clean your bucket and there's no gunk in it, then you can sanitize it. So all the bottles are capped. Cheers, chat. Man, you gotta love a good Kolsch. Good Kolsch. and some silly anime girl glass. Which, fun fact, I actually did not buy these. I actually had a friend bought these for me because I'm a big Toho person. As in case you could not tell from the BGM music, and he saw these and was like, "Oh, that's a Toho thing. I should get that for Sugi." And yeah, now I have Toho drinking glasses, which what like they're poetic? No, I don't want to say poetic. Yeah, what do I want to say about this? Like it's just right. It's just right. Like Toho and beer always go together. I guess unless you're trying to play the games, in which case Toho and beer probably don't go together too much anymore. Well, they go together, but not super well. So, but yeah, this is pretty much the bottling process right here. So now, with all these bottles capped, the beer has to do a thing called bottle conditioning. And what bottle conditioning is it basically just has to sit in the bottles for at least 2 weeks, ideally 3. I mean, I will usually try one of the reasons why I will bottle some in the smaller bottles is at the 2-week mark, I can crack this open, give it a taste, and be like, okay, do I like it? Do I not? It doesn't need to sit for longer, which I mean is so like one of the really cool things about homebrewing is like when you brew a beer, you get to taste that beer as it was worked before you even added hops to it. You can even taste it as worked after you added hops to it. And well, here, this is the flat beer that's in all these bottles. Like you can taste the beer at every point along its process. And like I know I bottled this today, June 30th, 2024. And I can try it on July 14th, 24. And be like, okay, here's how this beer tastes 2 weeks in the bottle. And then on July 21st, I can try it at 3 weeks in the bottle. Granted, in my experience, once you hit like the 3-week mark, the flavor's good. The flavor will improve up to so it does depend on the beer. But since I generally try to go for like a lot of these like lighter styles, lighter plus not lager beers. Usually I find that the flavor peaks at about the 6-week mark, if not 2 months. That's when like the flavor like really peaks, and it kind of slowly drops off. It's like a trying to think of like what kind of curve I should draw for you guys. Which actually I do have a pen, but do I have paper? Actually, I do have paper. I have paper. It's buried paper though. So like the flavor profile for a beer, it gets better, and then so it rises, it matures, and then it hits like the 1 month mark, and it's basically like a slow decline down. Really rough visualization. But yeah, that's like a really fun, neat thing with like homebrewing is like you can taste beer at like every point along its process, and ooh, this is what it tastes like now, and this is what it tastes like a week later or a month later, or yeah. It's kind of like, to me, that's like one of the like neater things, like doing this, like one of the fun like kind of like insights, if you will. So, as far as work that's to be done today, I have equipment to clean. And I'm probably not going to show that because it's going to involve me running around. Man, you thought this iPhone losing track of my model has been a bit today. You have no idea when I'm running around trying to like clean stuff. Just like go and get the water, and then I dump the water. Well, of course I dump the water out in the garden, all that fun stuff, and just a lot of running around. But it is one of the more important aspects of homebrewing, is maintaining the cleanliness of the equipment. That way I can continue to make good beer with it. So with that prelude, I think this is going to bring an end to today's stream. I would like to thank all of you who have tuned in very much for doing so. As far as stuff that's coming down in the pipeline, I still need to make schedule. Because I do think I am starting to get to the point where I should start making a schedule for my stuff. So the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to be the shop cart. So it's going to be like a small shop utility cart. It's literally just going to be like a wooden thing on casters that I'm able to roll around the shop, put stuff on. I'm going to design it in such a way where it will actually roll under and fit under this workbench. That's where it'll live when it's not in use. Because I am definitely working with a small-ish shop. That's going to be ideally that will be a Tuesday build, and hopefully that will get knocked out on Tuesday. And then I would like to do another stream on Thursday. Thursday is going to be a smokeless wood burning stove. Now, I'm waiting for some materials to come in. They should come in time. It should be a fun build. Like, it's something I've actually been looking forward to actually like just doing it, getting it, and having it, because one of my visions for this build is to have something that I could like feed small wood scraps to and make tea with, and that would be absolutely lovely. So that's probably gonna be like a Thursday. That's gonna be a Thursday evening build, and like both of these streams will probably start at 6:30 EDT time zone. And let's see, I want to also do a Sunday morning stream. And the Sunday morning stream is probably going to be a cooking stream. I don't know exactly what I want to do for that cooking stream just yet. I have ideas, but I also, once I post the schedule up on Twitter, I definitely want to like solicit for ideas of like recipes and stuff. Like if there's any like recipes like people suggest, because like, man, what better way to expand the amount of recipes that I know than to solicit people for recipes that they like. So I think I'll probably make a post about that somewhere in the next 24 hours or so. Not entirely sure. Not really looking forward to all the cleaning I have to do, but it's the thing I have to do. That's good. Really good Kolsch. Kolsch is just good. So, I hope you enjoyed this bowling day. This me yapping about beer. Hopefully sometime within the next 2 weeks, I will do another beer brewing stream, and it will be making Oktoberfest for Oktoberfest season. And ideally, well, honestly, I'm not even going to say ideally. I'm going to make sure that we're actually able to finish the beer on stream. Because unfortunately with this beer, when it was brewed on stream, I ran out of propane for the burner during the hot boil. And I basically had to in-stream run to hop in my motor vehicle, go to a gas station, get a tank of propane, come back, and then finish up the beer. And I really want to avoid that, because I actually do really want to like have a stream where we just chill, we relax, and we just like talk about the whole process. This is the finishing. This is finished product. Well, it's this isn't perfectly finished product. It has to age a little bit, but right now this beer is just going to go into the basement. It's going to sit, and then it's going to sit there for like probably like 2 to 3 weeks. The yeast is going to carbonate the beer, and we'll probably have some pretty delicious beer eventually. But so I think this is enough of me yammering. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I hope you all have I hope you all have a good evening, and may you have a good start to your week. And with that, this is Sugi Yamagawa, and I'm just a silly idiot in a garage VTubing my slow life hobbies in my 30s. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.